Alan Morris and Howie Crooks here. Today we want to talk to you about a really important topic, something that unfortunately we see more than we would like, having to do with elder abuse and exploitation. And this is something that in our firm, Ellen heads up our department and has a lot of experience dealing with these kinds of issues.
Unfortunately, the experience is there because unfortunately the elder abuse and exploitation is there. You know, Florida is one of the 3 top states that people retire to, and that means that our population ages, and as we age, unfortunately, we are subject to potential illnesses, cognitive decline, vulnerabilities that may make us the target of exploitation, undue influence. And when that happens, we have got to be vigilant. So what we've done is on the statutory end, most recently, we've strengthened those laws. We did touch on that on a recent video about the laws that we strengthened regarding exploitation and the disinheritance teeth that we now have against exploiters, which we hope once it gets out there and the word gets out there that these statutes exist, will disincentivize certain family members, specifically exploiters, from committing the exploitation because they will not inherit if they do and if they're found to have done so, number one. But number 2, regarding just the exploitation and elder abuse in and of itself from strangers or calls that you get on the telephone from people asking money and saying that there's that your grandchild is in jail and pretending that
$10,000 somewhere,
pretending that they are. So all we can do is put the word out there that, you know, we have ways to deal with that here in the state of Florida. It falls under the litigation arena, let's say, although we try and it doesn't have to be contentious and litigated. You know, there are ways that we can protect the vulnerable adult from themselves, especially if they're at a point where they recognize that they sort of need protection from themselves. Sometimes we can create an irrevocable trust where the vulnerable adult basically has this line of defense where they say, I don't have the money to give you. I'm not in control of that money. You would have to talk to the trustee. I've done that in a number of cases with vulnerable adults who specifically have family members who have sort of pulled at their heartstrings and they don't trust themselves to be able to withstand the pressure. That's one thing. Another thing is if they are incapacitated, we can put a power of attorney in place where we can send letters, you know, cease and desist, etc., to dissuade any further involvement. We can get involved with notifying car dealerships or anyone out in the community that the person has vulnerabilities or capacity issues maybe. The court of last resort is always guardianship. If there's an incapacity, we can deal with it that way, and that will stop it. And we do try and work with law enforcement agencies and most importantly with family members to ensure that our vulnerable citizens here in Florida are protected, and we have a number of legal means that we can accomplish it by.
And just based upon what you just said, Ellen, you know, remarkably, sometimes you refer to some strangers and third-party vendors that are out there, people who are trying to convince somebody who may be 85 years old to just take out a new lease on a new car when they don't really need it. Their current car has, you know, a few thousand miles on it and they're not really driving very much. So that goes on. But it struck me that some of the cases that we handle internally are family members, right?
Right.
It's so sad that a family member cannot be trusted. But my takeaway from all of this, you know, working with you on these kinds of cases is being proactive is so very important. That the minute you see a sign that something's not quite right, is it true that the earlier you get in and try to be proactive about it, that you're going to have a greater rate of success in preventing the abuse from occurring in the first place?
Absolutely. You really need to stay in close contact and communication. If you don't live here and your parent does, there are professionals you can hire, geriatric care managers, social workers, that you can hire to check on them. There are devices, monitoring cameras, bracelets that you wear. You do need to be proactive and be vigilant and make sure that you really know what's going on, and come down and visit as often as you can. I have parents who are 89 and 90, and your mom is 87. And so we have our own personal family experiences with just our own parents here. And me being in the industry, my dad called. Thank God he was persistent and perceptive enough. He says, Risa, who's my oldest daughter, Risa's not in Texas, is she? And Risa went to the University of Texas. But of course, that was years and years ago. And he heard Texas, and I said, no, Dad, she's not. Okay, good, thank goodness. I knew it was a scam. But yes, be proactive and talk to your loved ones, your vulnerable adults,